Hello, gorgeous souls. I'm Michelle Rosetta, and this is Stories Not to Take to the Grave, a podcast inspired by the rich sharing of traditional wisdom and know-how with storytelling. I believe the remedy our communities deeply require for health and well-being is rooted in our own authentic and unedited tales. Some of what we fear to speak or that which is seemingly mundane to us is exactly what those around us may need to hear in the way we speak our truth. I am a mother of 4, an entrepreneur, and a clinical herbalist. Plant medicine being one of the modalities I work with to assist my community. I have the tendency to make questionable choices, jump off things I shouldn't, along with the uncanny ability to turn it around to land on my feet. It is not only in victory that deep healing lies, but also in our mishaps and trials. Independently and with guests, we will cover topics to support our sovereign journeys to our best versions of wellness. I am not a doctor, and clinical herbalists are not licensed in Canada. Anything discussed pertaining to plants, protocols, and health in general are for educational purposes only. Every body is different. What works for one may not be the answer for another. It is your responsibility and duty to decide whether a course of action recommended to you, no matter it be by your family doctor or natural practitioner, is right for you. During this podcast, we will grow our personal discernment abilities and learn to take off the layers covering the self that lies within, so we may listen in a more profound way. So, let's roll up our proverbial sleeves, start digging, and get down and dirty with everything that makes us already fabulous and on our way up. And, of course, please subscribe, share, and leave a review if you enjoy this content. Let's get digging. This type of public telling of tales is a whole new world for me. Learning to clarify what I want to say in some type of structure that can be followed along with deliverable value. However, this is still the superficial layer of what I feel compelled to do. This is not my comfy space. I do not even know that I can do this job, but the greater component is that I feel called to share my personal program and frequency through storytelling. I did have a few business savvy confidants that were concerned I don't bring up my company enough, that I'm not getting to the point of my products. But my practice and my products are only parts of this whole expression of my core purpose. Not unlike how storytelling is only one modality of healing in an expansive, integrated tapestry of spiritual practice. And I appreciate this feedback because it helps me to better clarify what is the purpose of doing this podcast? What result do I want from it? Of course, I want my community to know about what I do, but the greater calling of this podcast is not to simply tell someone how to exfoliate with oatmeal or what to use, but to activate the dormant radiance inside, so the cellular makeup can level up and light up in a way that has not been for a very, very long time. I literally want to help others to glow with divine luminance. And to get there, it takes a lot of allies. And that is why I often focus on the plant kingdoms and what they have to offer us as helpers and guides. This idea of activating our dormant glow from within the cellular makeup did not simply just come to me. I have been postulating about this for years. What am I actually doing on the planet? I want people to feel good. I want them to feel empowered. I want to share this information about our organs, skin, and light. But it took me a long while of digging, unearthing, and lifting of layers until I realized what I really wanted to express through my human design. It seems obvious now and simple, but was just not available for me to see clearly until now. What is happening on the planet is a mass initiation into a higher version of what, I consider the self, coupled with the unveiling of our spiritual gifts. This does not come without discomfort or confusion or a feeling of what the heck is going on, but it is happening. Getting clear and taking the time to listen is a must. Humanity is in a place of remembering. Information and our genetic design are reassembling as we speak to once again grant access to our more complete connection with Source, Creator, Universe, however it is that you see the all. With this, our dormant genes holding medicine, gifts, and immemorial information are being activated. In the current passing society, we lost touch with the powerful medicine shared during the telling of a story. In our need to get to the point, summarize the points, and conclude in a shorter time span than that which it takes a goldfish to round the bowl once, we have become disconnected with the transference of information between energetic bodies within the delivery of the word. And it is important to note that vibration, sound, and story are still only some of the modalities of sharing vital cellular information that can shift the subtle body. Perhaps you don't need thousands of words and hours to get your story across, but actively being present to allow the narrative to move within you is what I see as a necessity. This is both for teller and the listener. This is also what I find super scary and exhilarating. When you allow yourself to be holding space for story to come through, it's not something scripted or practiced necessarily. There are points that I want to get to, but in that space, I may not be certain of what chooses to show up. It is only my job to give it life in the means that are available to me. This is a facet of storytelling that I think has been lost in many ways. And the subtle body refers to very much, I see it as a non physical layer that wraps my physical body, almost like my partner in crime, I suppose. But uh, it would be considered like a quasi material layer that serves as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms, allowing individuals to tap into intuition and higher states of consciousness. Various spiritual traditions will see this in different ways, but that's why we want to move the subtle body and wake that up. When a parable is shared, it is not just the words that are important to shift the listener. It is the vibration at which the words are delivered. When indigenous share creation stories, the water, land, and animals, is not merely the story. It is the words said that each holds a powerful tone that resonates with its own personal world. Each word becomes a realm in and of itself, holding its own healing. This is one of the reasons that original languages must be preserved and restored, because each of these words holds access to a particular modality of medicine that is specific to this culture, language, and way of being. This does not mean that if you do not have access to your motherland language, that you are impotent to create medicinal support for another through story. Intentional and conscious use of words works on a level that we are only now restoring into our human psyche of the world around us. When we look at a mother sharing a bedtime story, it becomes a whole new meaning. Not to mention, the masculine and feminine more than often have completely different ways of sharing narratives. The medicine and meaning shared may vary even in the telling of the same story. Our very organs have influence on the way story is delivered and received. Even the way wisdom moves into the subtle body will be different. The ways of teaching are different. There are times that both medicines are more necessitated or not. Furthermore, not everyone is designed to learn in the same fashion. But this does not mean that those who learn through the numeric understanding of the golden ratio are superior to those who hold in their hand all that is designed of the golden ratio. Knowledge transferred without ever knowing the numeric ratio. By sitting with nature in the trees, by examining the beach and sea life, we learn without ever having to numerically break it down. In my opinion, this doesn't make one less or better. And it is so important to remember that not everyone is meant to hear your story. Not everyone wants to hear what you are serving out, and that is all right. Not everyone is meant to resonate with your design. In our need to conquer, be successful, and be acknowledged, we have forgotten that we have a soul purpose, and not everyone's soul mission is expressed in the same way. Not all of us are meant to speak to massive crowds. There are those of us that really need to get our story out so that we can impact the few souls that were integral to our soul mission. It also is very exciting to think that by allowing our energetic body to receive the conscious story of another, it will aid us in making necessary shifts in our own cellular makeup or open us up to worlds that we want to get to know better. Join me as we bring these concepts back down to earth and have some fun with it. We are going to delve into the story of the week of spiraling thoughts in the warm embrace of Motherwort. I'm currently drinking an infusion, a tea, with Leonoris cardiaca, Motherwort, Scutellaria, skullcap, and rhodiola tincture. So all three of these are incredible allies during this type of moment. However, we're going to focus on Motherwort. I am on the other side, or getting to the other side of what I call spiraling. I'm sure there is nurture versus nature, and it's not just the heavy metals infants, children, and adults are subjected to in this current societal structure. However, I digress. This is what happens to me in a moment that I decide I have done some serious transgression, which I deem are many. They can be from feeling I was offensive with a term used in conversation to driving away from the gas pump without paying because I just forgot, and the police being called along with others. So I will replay these events over and over and over in my mind until there is nothing left of the thought and I finally move on from it. It's not comfortable. And it's a really sad form of self-punishment, but it is one of my tendencies. So I'm being honest about it and letting you know what works for me when I go into that particular type of place. And I do know there's probably many thinking, well, there's a syndrome for that. And probably, but we're going to jump to the plant allies part. So I'll just explain what happened. It's already over 2 weeks ago, and it still sends me into this place of spiral, and it's really not that big of a deal. But again, I do notice as I am maturing that many of these moments of the spiral come after a place of deep depletion. I have traditionally run myself like I have an infinite amount of energy, which is maybe on some level true, but not here when we're on Earth. We do have an internal battery, and learning to work with that battery and maintain it is part of our success level in our human experiences. And for me, I tend to deplete mine doing fun things too. But I am learning that I do need to regulate this internal battery and care for it. Nonetheless, I did not, and I did a 4,000 kilometer trip up to Northwestern Ontario on my motorcycle. I do realize I am learning a lot through my bike as I tell these stories, which seem pertinent to me. But when I got back, I probably should have spent more time resting, but I didn't. And when I was called uh, for a particular get together because one group was going to a bike meet that I was really excited to go to with other people because I've been going to it alone and nobody from my area was really wanting to go. So when everyone wanted to go, I was like, oh, wow, I really want to join that. I want to come too. So I did. And we started out on the ride and it was very good. But then we got to a point where it was realized that nobody knew how to get into the bike meet except me. And the consensus was made that I should lead this group in, which had almost 10 bikes, I think more. And I don't like leading large groups. It's a place of discomfort. And the only time I have ever led a group that large was with military veterans. I know they set it up so that I could not fail. The other part of this is I didn't want to say no. I didn't want to feel like I couldn't do that. And for many, this is probably not a big deal, but I'm being authentic about some of the feelings I feel. And case in point, I was the only female rider. And I did feel some pressure around that. So um, the first part went well. Um, we got into the turn and went through some lights, and then we got into traffic. And then I decided that we could get through this one light, this one green light, which we could not. The whole group could not get through. So what happened was, and I lost my crew. It was an utter mess. Everyone was all over the road. And it was just a big fail. It was a huge fail. And eventually we got into where we were supposed to be going, not to do with anything I personally offered. So I held on to this and I replayed it in my mind, and I have squirrel thoughts over and over and over again. And I'm not quite sure why these types of challenges are so devastating for me. There must be something I'm working on in this particular lifetime about leadership. And I realized working through this over the last few weeks, one of the things that came up is that I get very concerned that I am going to lead my crew wrong, that I am going to make a bad choice. And that is something that it's very deep. And that was one of the things I realized came up, was that I fear leading wrong. And stepping into that role causes me a lot of anxiety. And it's not something that I do lightly. So that's what came out of sitting in way too much of replaying, but also working with these plant allies. I softened enough so that I could see. The other thing that I realized, well, one, lesson wise, because I was able to sit with this without numbing it, but soothing it, I realized, one of my big lessons is, if we want to talk about it pragmatically, is you don't go through the light unless you know the last guy can make it through. So that was my lesson through it. And I'm sure there's other levels to that lesson, but I was able to get there after way too much replaying. But again, because I softened those feelings enough that I could sit with them. One of the other things that happened, which I think is quite humorous, and maybe I'm being a little bit too open about the big community I feel like I walk with on the regular, is that I learned through observing someone else. And that was really important for me. And I think it's important for us to connect as a community on that level. And there's a gym just down from me. And it's not one I usually would join, but it's the most accessible and the one that makes the most sense. However, when I was originally passing these classes that I now have joined, I would look at them and be like, oh, not for me. And part of that is because I am moving out of what I said. I relocated from the big city to the outskirts. And in those settings, often we're dealing with lower lights and limbs flying everywhere, and the thudding, thud, 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 thud of the music, and the push harder. And that's what I have become accustomed to. And anything that's not that, I'm like, that's not going to give me a good workout. But also there's this, like, I call it my venom streak. And literally in my mind, it has this lower intense voice where it's like, you're going to work out with grandmas and babies? What's wrong with you? That's awful. I know it's awful, but I'm just being honest that there is this streak that comes out, and it could be a co-pilot in my experience if I didn't acknowledge that it was there. And I think it's kind of like my shadow streak, and warranted after you've been in that type of big city workout space for a long time. I kind of did feel like a super villain joining the walking group. And I don't know why that's there, but I'm just really stating facts here on some strange undercurrent. It could be unconscious if I wasn't bringing it out into the light. But that is there. When I first walked past that one gym with it's beautiful. It is a beautiful expression of the best parts of our humanity. There is all ages, gender, like varying cultures, demographic, gender, age, physical ability, and there's moms with babies, and there's a grandpa who brings his granddaughter, and it is awesome because there's this massive community that's working out together. Everyone is at their own pace, and we are all getting the job done together. And I think that is an incredible example of the best parts of humanity. And I realized after joining that I do get a very, very good workout, and there is nothing left wanting. So on this particular, just recently, I was in class, and there's 3 different instructors up front to show different parts of the class. And when it came to this one, she's not a girl, she's a woman, but I guess in this mature genre. Not to note it that I said there's grandmas and grandpas. I'm a grandma, so like, what am I thinking here? Anyhow, my venom streak really needs to, sit down. Anyhow, but it was her turn. She looked like late 20s, early 30s, and it became very apparent early, though, that she realized her mic was not set properly, that the music was not correct for her section, that for her tone and accent, the volume wasn't correct, and she missed her entry point. And you could see on her face, she was like, that heavy, nonetheless, we moved forward. We got the workout done. It was a very good class. And you could tell she had impeccable form, that she was going to be a very, very good instructor in the class, and that she had natural ability. And you could see all these things from the outside. And as a community, we were all supporting her to be able to get through that class and to be able to gain that time in the saddle, and eventually she will be so good at what she does. And I could see that from the outside. And then after the class, I could see she had that look on her face, that heavy. And I went up and said it was a really good class. And she was able to say, I was so tired and I did not want to lead today in that class, but it was on my schedule. And I was able to say, well, we all got to the point we wanted to go to, and that's hot and sweaty and a mess, and physically feeling like we did what we were supposed to do for our bodies today. And obviously, this helped me a little bit on my own personal messy leadership attempt and to be a bit kinder to myself. Um, and maybe next time when I deem something an atrocious transgression, I can think back to this one, and because I allowed myself to sit with it and move through it, even though it was it was way too long of replaying and agitating and being upset over something that happened in one moment and was done. Like, it was done. It's new day. These are my personal challenges, though, and that's why we're talking about the plants and what I use to move through them, because maybe someone else goes through these ridiculous moments of spiral. Um, and yeah, that brings us back to anxiety and racing thoughts. And although skullcap is really very, very good for racing thoughts, for me, I've really had to support my energetic heart. My heart has been very, I don't know how long, but it's been hurt. It's been very, very hurt. And so for me, supporting that heart area, that chakra, that muscle, the energetic and the physical is very, very important for me to get through these new lessons of learning. And again, interesting, when we talk about plants showing us little signs of what they're good for, whether it's through taste, smell, feeling, look of the leaves, root systems. Motherwort has these really sweet heart-shaped leaves. So she's already telling us that she is there as a support for the heart. And one of the other reasons I had felt that Motherwort was really important for this particular podcast and to start as a foundational plant ally is not only because prior to 100 years from 100 years ago from now, we knew for anxiety, for emotional balance, for all those types of things, she was a powerful plant ally. It's because I reached into my plant library and I decided to look at the energetics of Motherwort from this book that Andrea Deal had given to me. She's a very, very, very good and established homeopathic practitioner. And we were in Marianne Beacon's clinical herbalist program together. So she had given me this book. And I realized when I read the part about Motherwort, why it was such a foundational plant to this whole podcast and to my well-being. So in the notes, it says, Motherwort joins the list of so many botanicals that were destined for oblivion 100 years ago and were rescued from this fate just in time, in this case by English doctors, according to Richard Wilford. The reason again is clear and can be explained from a number of vantage points. Speaking in most general terms, Motherwort was used for conditions of the mother. For example, the womb in the oral, unrecorded tradition of women healers, the wise woman traditions. Since this tradition was actively suppressed throughout the 13th to 17th centuries, falling into limbo thereafter, all herbal remedies that belonged to it simply followed its demise. To put it plainly, Motherwort is a woman's remedy, which, like many others, suffered neglect with the rise of male legislated medicine and the suppression of women in general. The specific downward slide of Galenic medicine itself from the 16th to 19th centuries did not encourage the remembering of botanicals such as motherwort either. It is a mild, non-toxic herb whose essential action is a regulating one of both heart and uterus. As such, it had no place when herbal medicine turned to aggressive, eliminate specifics, many of mineral and animal origin, from the 1600s onward. For both these reasons, then, motherwort has been relegated to the domain of folk medicine for many centuries, like many other woman's friend, white dead nettle, mugwort, yarrow, sea holly, for example. Today, that things have changed in every respect. Motherwort enjoys a degree of scientific sanction. Lucky for it that it contains alkaloids also found in wood betony, for example. These have been shown to induce uterine contractions, a fact relevant to its use in constraint and stagnant type menstrual conditions, as well as for enhancing labor, delivery, and postpartum in every way. In China, motherwort decoction is now given to contract the uterus and stop bleeding after childbirth, and one wonders whether traditional midwives made use of this when rye ergot was not available. Even its fabled effects on the heart have been confirmed via its glycosides, which includes not only cardiac stimulant, antispasmodic, and hypotensive, but also coronary stimulant effects. The net effect on the heart is a supportive, regulatory one, hence the wide range of traditional heart syndromes in which it can be used. Nevertheless, looking at motherwort's indications as a whole, it becomes clear why it belongs to the constraint loosening category of herbs. Overall tension caused by emotional or mental stress, as well as local spasms, uterine, intestinal, cardiovascular, are relieved with its essentially relaxant and spasmolytic effect. In reality, evidence points to how the uterus and the heart are connected. And I think that is a really important note to conclude on, that we are remembering how important the connection is for women and in general our human community to our energetics and our organs, and that there are very powerful plant allies that can support these emotional and physical components of our human experience. And also, within supporting those physical components, we are able to call in these plant allies to assist us when we are facing our physical, emotional, spiritual, mental challenges. And instead of taking what has been very prominent and offered to our current human society to numb these feelings, to be able to disregard these little flags in terms of what we should be working on while here, instead of doing the numbing and disregarding, these plants soften and calm and lubricate and help us to move through these feelings of discomfort and to be able to sit with them so that we may be able to see the deeper connections and the greater lesson learned. And potentially we are multi-level beings living multiple lives, maybe through this ancient community we're able to finally let go of challenges, mistakes, lessons learned at other times that we're disconnected from in this particular lifetime. And with the right allies, we can get down the road together. um, if you would like any help with discovering what the right plants are for you with what you are currently working on, you can always reach out to me at b23.ca and just press on the herbal support. And yeah, that's my story. Thank you so much for joining. And I do feel I need like a little bell for the beginning and the end. Ding! Maybe I was, I don't know, in the 20s or 30s a radio host. Anyhow, thank you so much. That's it for now. Thank you so much for dropping by Stories Not to Take to the Grave. I hope you feel inspired to take more time to listen to your own internal wisdom and to find the courage to share your story. If you like this content, please share, subscribe, and I would be ever so grateful if you took the time to leave a review. Until next time, keep on digging.